Hello, hello, and welcome back to your channel, Ask Your Pain Doc. In this channel, we talk about traditional and alternative treatments and methods to treat pain. Today, we're going to talk about one of my favorite all-time topics, neurographic art. I know you guys have a lot of questions. I had another interview with my favorite neuro coach, Mary Amini. Please make sure you subscribe to my channel, turn on notification, so if there is any new video, you get notified. Let's do this. So here we go, my favorite neuro coach, Mary Amini. Thank you so much for joining us. As we did two amazing videos, and I got lots of questions and lots of comments, which we're going to go through it today. I'm just going to give you the stage because you are an amazing teacher, amazing trainer. And so the stage is yours.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Hi again. It's been about 6 months since our last conversation together, and it was an amazing experience. I've had smaller groups that come to class, and I've had interactions like that, but the interactions we've gotten on our videos together has been really, really amazing. So I think based on a lot of the comments and interactions that we had, there are a few things that I think it's good for me to clear up right off the bat. And I think that the difference between two different schools of art. So there's a general school called Neurographic Art, which is what we have been talking about. And neurographic art essentially involves drawing curved lines of any kind and creating intersections and then rounding those intersections. Then there's a very specific school of neurographic art coming out of Russia, which I originally introduced, called Neurographia. Their website is available if you want to learn about them. You can get certified through them as either a basic user, an advanced kind of training, and then you can even become an instructor through Neurographia. I have gone through some of that training myself. A lot of what I do in my neurographic art is inspired by Neurographia, but I neither practice nor teach Neurographia. That's a very different school, and if you want to follow that, by all means, the information is there. I'm very much inspired by a couple of ideas from Neurographia, but I find Neurographia itself very rigid. There's been some scientific studies done on Neurographia, which you can go and find out and read. There hasn't been any scientific studies on anything I do because this is my version and my interpretation, and I do not have a research lab and those kinds of things at my disposal. So anything that I share with you is through my personal experience with the people who have gone through the programs and so on and so forth. So in Neurographia, there is a couple of different ways of applying the arts, which we were talking about the last time, right? So this idea of having releases, which we did in the second one, which is this idea of connecting with an internal emotion that's kind of negative, becoming aware of the sensation it produces in your body, because emotions are not just something that's in the mind. We now know through the vagus nerve that it actually creates sensation in the body, and that's important. Feelings are not just these intangible things that happen in the mind, they also happen in the body. So connecting with that and then expressing that without having any kind of words, right? So you got your frustration out with the release. We've done one together, but you don't really need to explain to anybody what you were frustrated about. It's not like talk therapy where you sit down in front of somebody and say, this is what frustrates me and this is why, and this is. So when we are thinking about these kinds of things, what happens is we're not present with the emotion anymore. Our logic kicks in.
Yeah.
And you can't heal emotional issues logically.
Yeah,
So this
no,
is
you
where
don't.
the emotion helps, right? So you put that out, and then the other part of this is planning things out and trying to essentially program your subconscious mind with the goals and intentions that you have, putting them on paper. So that's the programming. We were talking about the tree of life, the lotus of being, the blue ocean. There's different algorithms that you can use, but that's your expression of goals, things that now you want to create in your life, as opposed to the expression of those things that were programmed into you before. So those are the two kind of the tick and the talk of neurographic art that combined together over a period of time can actually provide a lot of benefits, physically, mentally, manifestation wise, however you
Yeah.
want to think of it.
No, I have a lot of the viewers, they send me comments about like they want to introduce this in school. This is such a, is a great method, especially with children, that you try to avoid all of, that medication if they have anxiety, if they have focus issues. I think I think that's a really simple and an amazing technique, and
And adaptable to anybody, right? It's adaptable to children, to the elderly, to it's really it's been really great with, I've had a couple of people who've had trauma from abuse, from different types of abuse. Recently, we have had an uprising in our country, and there's been a lot of emotional turmoil that has happened with that. And I've been involved with a lot of the kids from back home who are
right.
going
Oh
through a
wow,
lot of emotional trauma,
that's
and this has
very
helped. This has
right.
given them something where they can put their frustrations out on paper and not have to talk to anybody, because there are no therapists available right now in the middle of an uprising. There's nobody for them. So instead of having to confide in someone else, they have somewhere to release at least the emotion that's
Right, right,
sticking with them.
right. And just one more question that just popped into my mind is like, is there a do you recommend different patterns for different people's different clients, if they talk to you about, okay, I have anxiety, like I have
Mm-hmm.
anxiety dealing with my kids, like, is this different from some patients or some persons that have depression, and what is the difference? And can you explain that by the different lines, like what is that kind of representing?
Yeah, so there is the core of the way I work with people is always the same, in that we combine releases with programming, because to me your mind is like a garden, and we have a lot of automatic negative thoughts, which you can think of as weeds. So when we release, we de-weed this garden. But then the problem is, if I don't plant something in its place, the weed is going to come back. So if I just keep doing releases, I'll just keep releasing that negative feeling over and over and over and over again. The programming end of this allows you to put something in its place and plant a new seed, plant tulips, plant daffodils, plant cucumbers, whatever it is that you like. And so the combination of the two together is where you actually get those benefits. And in the release, it's always the same. We don't draw shapes. In a programming algorithm, we actually draw shapes with specific purposes. So different um, geometric shapes will have different meanings. A circle is always for harmonizing.
Yeah.
A square gives me the ability to strengthen something. It's fortification. So if you think of four legs on a table, it's the most stable. It's what you can build something on. If I want to give an energy of change, we'll draw triangles. So this is what I mean when we
Oh
get
wow,
into
okay.
programming. You can actually put, let me see if I have any in these notebooks, or I need to grab another one. But so in that context, we can start drawing different shapes to represent different things that we want to put on paper. So yes, in that aspect, then it starts to become, depending on what your goal is with any given algorithm, with any given session, we would draw different lines, different shapes, different expressions.
Different expression, yeah. And I mean, simply, I feel like a psychotherapy or a therapy for patients who had anxiety or depression helps them to express their mind, express the cause of anxiety. And this is also a form of expression, but maybe non-verbal, right? You don't talk,
Right.
you just express your
So,
emotion in different way.
so more than anything, it's a somatic release. It's actually a way of allowing for your body to let go of that emotional trauma, because I think at this point everybody on the planet is familiar with The Body Keeps the Score. It's one of the best books on trauma and pain and all of that. So they talk about exactly that, that literally your body keeps the score. Your body holds on to certain feelings. So when you don't have to describe what you're feeling to someone else, when you take the logical, mental, verbal part out, now you allow for the body to release that anxiety and that feeling. And not only that, by continuing to stay present with those feelings and rounding, we actually learn to allow that feel internal sensation to start to change. And that by itself is healing, because we are allowing for, so the way that I think of trauma is there's a Sanskrit word called samskara, which talks about what trauma is. They talk about emotions being energy in motion. And as we are going through life, emotions are flowing through us. They're transient, right? They don't make an impression. If you're driving down the road, the trees are going by you, the cars are going by you. You are aware of them, but not necessarily conscious of any of them. They're not making an impression. That's regular emotion. Then all of a sudden, if you see a blue convertible with your girlfriend or your boyfriend all of a sudden in the passenger seat, now all of a sudden there's a registration. Now there's an emotion, and that emotion gets trapped and it starts to twirl around itself inside of you. Now thoughts kick in. What are they doing there? Who are they with? You start calling their cell phone. Why aren't they picking up? Now all of a sudden there's thoughts attached to this anxiety. That creates trauma. So unless and until you allow for that emotion that's getting stored and twirling around itself, the samskara, to leave, anytime you're driving down the highway and all of a sudden you see that same blue convertible, those same emotions start to pop back up, even if it's 20 years later, you're with someone else, you're happy in your life and whatever, because your body keeps the score.
Yeah.
So these releases are a way for us to allow the body to release these feelings, so that the next time you see a blue convertible, it doesn't make an impression. You stay present with the trees and the flow of traffic and all of that.
Yeah. And before I forget, I know you have your own courses that I do recommend, and I'll make sure we put that in our comments of the video. So
Sure.
people who want to do one-to-one treatment with you, or some of those courses, they can contact you directly. What else going on in the fields of neurographic? Is there, do you feel that this turn into a digital form in any way, or you feel part of the release should be in a pen and paper? What do you feel?
Well, there are a lot of neurographic artists right now doing it on iPads with a pen, with a pencil. So I have one.
Yeah.
So I don't
Oh
always
yeah, the
do
iPad.
my
Yeah.
art.
Oh yeah, you do that.
Yeah, I don't always do the art. So for me, the one thing with the iPad, and depending on the program that you're using, is that the pencil isn't as accurate as you would be on
You're right.
paper.
Yes. Yes.
So if you get, sometimes if I am really in my perfectionist mode, then I put this aside, my iPad aside,
Yeah.
because then I will focus on where my pen is going as opposed to being present with. So if I'm really, really frustrated, I will not do it on an iPad.
Yeah. And I mean, believe me, I mean, I feel like I'm turning to older as I'm getting older. I have a piece of paper and I got to write it down exactly as I write down all the question that I wanted to ask you today, so I won't forget.
Yeah, I'm old school. If I show you how many notebooks I have on, I have one digital one and I have another, yeah,
Right.
quite a few notebooks for different purposes. So I'm a pencil. I have an obsession with fountain pens because they're the best writing
Yes,
instruments on
yes.
the face of this
Yeah.
planet. So they don't, I have a thing with ink. If it stops my flow of thoughts. So I like fountain pens because the flow never stops.
Perfect.
There were some questions about, what are the rules in regards to coloring? So I think one of the most important things is at the end, when you get to the coloring part of neurographic art, at this point, the only purpose is to make that sheet look pretty. So at this point, although throughout this process, most of the time we're doing things counterintuitively, the coloring gets done completely intuitively. The only thing you don't want to do is create entrapment of energy. So you don't want to create, let's say, one bubble or one section that is one color and then not have that color repeat anywhere else. Because then if you think of colors as energy, they need an entrance and an exit point because they are in flow. But if you create one section that is by itself, it's neither an entrance nor an exit. It's stuck. And when things don't flow anymore, they rot. Even water, which is what we all were made out of, if water does not flow, it rots. So same thing with energy. Have at least two sections of your drawing that have the same color. So it has this feeling of ebb and flow of energy through it. Right. And have fun with it. Like the neurographic art is so versatile because anything you can imagine, you can put on that piece of paper. And because we are considering that paper to be sort of the field of all probabilities and possibilities, whatever you express is probable and possible.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right. And
exactly.
that's a different perspective than the way we usually think in life, because a lot of the times we think, well, that's too hard, or that's impossible, or that's not doable. Never mind that the word impossible itself says I'm possible. But in this in enlightened sort of culture, we talk about what you think about, you bring about.
Yeah.
Neurographic art is the quickest way of seeing it, right? So if you're thinking about a goal that you have or a dream that you have, it's one thing to do to-do lists about it, but have you ever considered sitting down and drawing lines and saying, this bubble or this circle represents what I want. This square is where I am and what my strengths are. This triangle is the kinds of things I need to change in order to get from where I am to where I want to be, which is going to make me happy. And just write in the center of all of those things. What are my strengths? Where am I now? Where do I want to be? And just see how you feel.
Sort of manifesting through, you know.
That's the planting part. That's the programming part. Exactly. We de-weed the garden. We get rid of the negative thoughts, but we need to start putting positive ones in its place. Right? And this is why I prefer doing this to doing things like affirmations, because happy people don't stand in front of a mirror and say, I am happy. They just present as happy because
Yeah.
they're doing the work, right? So if I'm, for example, if I'm giving myself affirmations in the morning, I'm standing in front of a mirror and I go, I am abundant, I am financially secure, I am this. And I say this to myself in the morning, and then the next thing I do is I go grocery shopping and I'm standing in front of the selections of peanut butter, and instead of looking at which one do I like, I look at the price tag. Well, I'm not abundant, I'm not behaving abundantly. So then my subconscious mind looks at me in the mirror and says, you're a liar, so I'm never going to be financially abundant. So instead of doing that, instead of standing in front of a mirror and saying something that my subconscious isn't going to believe, I'm going to show in neurographic art and in planning, hey, look, these are the things I do have. These are the strengths that I do have. These are the things I know how to change. So this thing that I say I want, these are the ways that I know how to get there. And that's a different way of affirming things to your subconscious, because it goes, oh, wait, this is not just you saying something and behaving differently. You're sitting down, you're creating these lines, you're showing me all the ways where you can actually get from where you are to where you want to be. And that's a different effect on your subconscious. Then slowly, when you go to the supermarket, you stop looking at the prices because you're doing the work in the background and your subconscious starts believing the new, more positive thought patterns you want to have, right? This is the way your body heals itself, by us telling it that it can.
Yeah, no, that's a
Right? The
very
placebo effect is amazing.
no, that's a very interesting way of basically to educate your thought, and train it so you look at things differently. I never thought like that. I mean, I try to just manifest things and just give myself, but that's I've never thought that you can do it through this art. Uh,
It's very, very powerful. Actually, the majority of the power comes from you being able to program things, right? So when we have these programming classes and programming courses or algorithms, that's the whole point. We were talking about Tree of Life the other time,
yeah,
right? So I just quickly want to talk about, that's one of the for example, programming algorithm. And I use the word algorithm, you can call it recipe. It's just the thought pattern or the process we follow to get from the beginning to the end of a work of neurographic work. I'm just trying to find, here it is. So this is a mini version of a tree of life. At the very bottom, so when we start this work, this is the algorithm for tree of life. You start at the very bottom and you consider this part the root, right? So you want maybe the bottom third, draw a little semicircle for yourself and start drawing circles in there, which are literally your roots. Who are your parents? What is your educational background? It's the kinds of things that you have gotten over time that allows you to be who you are right now. The trunk of the tree is who you are and the attributes that you have right now. So your job, your partner, your education, your skills, your emotions, the way you present in society, all of that goes into the trunk. The canopy is all of your dreams. It's the fruits you're going to bear. So all of these little circles are going to represent the things you want to create in the future still. And you connect them all with neurographic lines from the root to the very top. So that's what ends up giving it this appearance of a tree, is you connecting. Now, some of these lines can start from here and end up there, but they somehow look like the tree. So this whole tree is a representation of who you are.
yeah, that's beautiful. And you do this tree to one on your course, right?
We do that. Actually, this is one of the algorithms in a course. So because I've been doing this for a few years now, I've changed the way we do the courses. So there is a course called Intro to Neurographic Art, which is 6 consecutive sessions of doing just releases. And that's every Thursdays. Anyone can jump in at any time. We're just going to do 6 classes back to back. And then there's a 6-class course that's called Journey to Self. So that's 6 algorithms designed specifically for you to get an insight into who you are. So this is actually the second algorithm in that class. So you get to do this together. We started in class, but you're not going to finish it in class because there's a lot of rounding with this one. And then there's a second 6-class course called Journey to Manifestation, where you actually learn how to do planning algorithms for your goals. So it includes things like ikigai, finding that out exactly where your happy place is, that meeting place between what your talents are, what you're interested in, what the world needs, and what you can get paid for, right? So we can talk about the smart decision, how to turn a dream into an actual goal by making it specific, memorable, and measurable, act as if, be responsible for it, and giving it a timeline. So these are all the different algorithms we can do in that 6-week journey for you to set a goal and figure out how to get to it. So this is what I mean, the combination of releases, letting go of frustrations, and then planning these things together gives you a really complete roadmap.
That's awesome. That's very exciting. So please take a look at the comments. I'll make sure I put your contact information. So if anybody wants to contact you and do the course, which is going to be amazing, they can. Is there anything else you would like to add today, or?
Honestly, I think this is the kind of art that helps a lot of people. It's art with purpose. It's not, to me, one of the things I get a lot is I'm not an artist, so I wouldn't be good at this. And the one thing I can tell you is this is not the kind of art where you are depicting what is in the outside world on a piece of paper. So there is no degree of artistry or accuracy that's involved. This art actually involves you exposing your inner world in a way that nobody else can read but you. But we get to see a part of you. So there is no barrier to this. Try it. It's drawing lines and rounding them, and whatever resonates with you and brings you joy, follow it. And whatever doesn't, leave it be.
I know, I know. No, I appreciate your time, and thank you again for doing this interview. I'm pretty sure there are gonna be lots of questions and comments, and we can address them all
Absolutely.
if you have time, maybe in the next video, hopefully soon. It's always a pleasure to talk to you and have you here, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Same to you. Thank you so much.